Hi everyone, this is Deepak Agrawal, and I have a very special guest with me today, Rachit Garg. Hi Rachit.
Hi Deepak, how are you?
Okay,
Excited
it's
for
very
this
good.
talk show today?
Indeed, and the topic is very interesting, and yeah, I'm very much looking forward to learn about this topic today, Rachit. So yeah, let's get started then.
Cool. So guys, we are talking about using Git as version control for Dynamics 365 FNO projects. We have been using TFVC for a long time, and Git has been in news for a while as well. A lot of MVPs and community experts have shared their knowledge on how we can use Git as a version control for storing X++ code. What we want to do in this video is just give you an introductory teaser of what is Git, what it means for FNO project, for developers, for technical architects, and a very high level introduction of the workflow of how things move when you use Git as a version control system, and then few key things which makes Git unique and more preferred version control option over TFVC. So yeah, that's the agenda for today. Deepak, happy to for you to add on to anything if you want me to cover anything more.
Yeah, that's more like it, Rachit. I believe you mentioned Git, not GitHub, right?
Yes, Git and GitHub are different things, and let's cover that
Okay.
as well as a part of this conversation. Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, please help me to understand. Okay, what is the Git and how it's different with the GitHub?
Okay, cool. So let me start with the very basic foundational thing of even before talking about Git and GitHub, like why Git and what is Git and what is version control. So before talking about Git, I will talk for a minute about what is a version control system. So imagine you are working on a file. Um, don't think about programming, but you are creating a Word document or a PowerPoint presentation, and you want to store the different snapshots of that document so that if you make a change and you are not happy with it, you can go back to a previous version. Or if you made a change, it messed up the file, you can go back to 5 previous versions. And you also, if are working in a collaborative environment where multiple people are creating same PowerPoint or modifying the same Word document, you still want to store who is modifying what, who did what change in the document. And if you have to go back to a particular state of the document, you can always go back. So these type of capabilities are provided by a framework or the the concept is called versioning. So version control is all about when multiple people are working on writing code or X++ code in your FNO environment. You want to track who is making what changes. You can always go back to a previous change, and it helps you to basically keep your custom code in a good state. So that's the whole objective of version control. Now there are different type of version control systems, and there are different type of tools which can help you to do the version control. So when we talk about version control, different framework or a pattern, that's where you have TFVC or Git. Now the difference between TFVC and Git is that traditionally TFVC has been used for FNO, and it's a centralized version control system. That means all the custom code resides in a central server, and developers are basically checking in and checking out the code directly from the server. In case of Git, it is a distributed version control system. So in case of Git, every developer has their own local branch against which they work, and they check in the code. In fact, they push it, they don't check in the Git world. And then the code gets synchronized with the server. Now, the difference between Git and GitHub is GitHub is a platform which allows you to use Git as a version control system. Just like in Azure DevOps, you can create a repository of type Git, right? So in DevOps also you can use Git as a version control system, but in GitHub is another platform which allows you to store your code and use Git as a version control system. I hope that clarifies, Deepak.
Yeah, yeah. Does that mean, Rachit, I can create multiple Git within one GitHub projects also, something like that?
Yes, you can create multiple. So what we call when we create something of type Git is that is called a repository. So the
Mhm.
place where you store all your custom code is called a repository. A
Mhm.
repository can be of type TFVC or type Git. And
Yep.
yes, in one project or in one GitHub account, you can have multiple Git repositories. In one Azure DevOps project, you can have multiple Git repositories. And that's the benefit of this, because if you are working in an environment where you have Azure integration team working with you, you have a Dynamics 365 Power Platform team working with you, or a CE team working with you, and an FNO team is also working, there can be multiple Git repositories for each of the project, and that brings more flexibility for FNO guys to be in the game, because then you are also using the same platform as rest of the team.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
interesting. And now I think I'm more curious to understand, okay, what is a typical workflow that happens in Git?
Yeah, that is very important thing to understand, because having even after saying that it's a version control system, it is very different to TFVC, and that whole approach of how Git was created is very different. Now, what makes Git unique from TFVC? I'll come to that, but first I'll answer your question. What's a typical workflow? So let's say I, as a developer, have to develop a new feature. Let's say I have to develop a new report, which is part of my requirement specification, and I have my machine set up with Git repository on it. So what I will do is I will first create a new branch. So let's say I'm working on a dev branch, then I will create a new branch out of my dev, which is for my work, and let's call it order statement report branch or something. You can have your own naming conventions. Now I will create my new custom objects, and I will basically first stage those objects using Git commands. So Git uses different ways of giving these commands to the Git framework. So you can use your command line, you can use PowerShell, you can use Git Bash, you can use, there are many GUI tools where you can use Git. So the easiest way to get started is either use command prompt or PowerShell. I mean, there are on the dev VM of FNO environment, you will find there are some Git GUI tools installed as well. So basically, you write your custom code, then you stage that code. That's your step one. Then you commit that code in the branch. Now, when you commit it, it creates a commit in the Azure DevOps. Now, this is where the terminology is different. In TFVC, you create change sets. In Git, you create commits. In TFVC, you check in code. In Git, you push code, right? So let's say you have pushed the code, and let's say you have to get it reviewed by your architect. So what you do is you create a pull request in your DevOps, so that, or you can create it through Visual Studio as well. That pull request goes to the reviewer. He reviews the code. If he's happy with it, it approves the pull request, and that branch which you created can be merged into your dev branch. And then the branch against which you worked, it can also be cleaned up going forward. So the difference is, in Git you create a new branch for more, for let's say every new development you do, or if you have to fix any hotfix, fix an issue, you create a branch, do the change, push it, merge it, delete it. So branches are short-lived in Git. In TFVC, you generally have a dev branch, then everyone is working against it. Now, from the technical architecture perspective, the way Git stores these different snapshots of your code is by using references. In TFVC, everything is copied in different folders. So if you recall, when you set up TFVC, you have to create a mapping in your Visual Studio. You have to create different workspaces. So let's say if you have multiple branches, you will copy all your dev branch code into one folder, test into another, and then you have to right click and merge and copy files from one folder to another. In case of Git, you don't have to do that, because Git is only storing the references of each change as a snapshot, and it uses a very long GUID under the hood to maintain that change. So it basically changes the pointer under the hood when you change the branches. So it's not creating multiple copies of your code. And that's where Git is really smart, and it's very fast as compared to TFVC, and the branches are short lived. There are few differences in the terminology, but a typical workflow is create a new branch, stage your code, commit your code, do a pull request, merge it in the branch, and then get rid of it. Yeah.
And the way I understand, Rachit, I believe Git is not just for maintaining your X++ code, right? I can also save lot of other source code, where be it maybe the XML file of my logic apps and so on, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. You can store different type of artifacts in your Git repository. You can also store your electronic reporting configurations or maybe your dual
Interesting.
write maps. Uh, and that's the whole benefit of Git. You can basically store anything in it. You can even store a Word document if you want to. But in reference to FNO development and X++ developments, uh, the main uh, the main shift X++ developers are going through because of a lot of platform convergence and a lot of new features coming out, and then dealing with a lot of uh, people who are from a different background. So you may be dealing with an Azure integration expert or a data expert or with a CE or uh, Power Platform experts, and most of them are using Git as a version control. So having X++ code also residing in Git repository brings uniformity to your overall ALM process. Also, Git is fast, Git is more modern, widely used. I'm not saying that TFVC is bad or you should not use it. If your team is comfortable using TFVC, go ahead, use it. It's only helping you to do a version control. Ultimately, the main goal of Git or TFVC is to give you a version control capabilities. Um, if you are new to Git, then first try it in some in-house projects. Make sure your developers are comfortable using the Git commands. Don't just push them to use Git and things get messed up. So make sure that the team is comfortable. Go through the learning materials. There are a lot of tutorials online where people can practice Git commands. You can actually just download Git on your local laptop, and you can use a notepad file and you can practice Git over it. So you don't really need to have a DevOps or a FNO machine to practice Git. Just use a notepad file and install Git on your local machine and get familiarized yourself with the Git commands. I think that will help a lot. And I would like to call out, there is a website from where you can download this book called as Pro Git. So if you just Google Pro Git, it's a PDF file, which is like a Bible of Git. So if you're interested in learning Git, just download that. We can share the link in the description. Yeah.
And I have one last question for you, Rachit. I know I guessed the answer already, but still, I wanted to hear from you. The Git, be it a Git or TFS, TVFS, whatever, both are Microsoft product now, right? So, what is your favorite one?
Uh, to be honest, I deal with both in my daily life because I do have customers who use TFVC. But the more I get use Git, I am liking it. To be honest, it's a bit hard to start getting used to Git commands in the beginning because it took me a while, to be honest, to get used to the Git commands and ways of working. There were people in my team who helped me to learn it, and there were a lot of MVPs who did all these sessions, which also ignited my interest in using Git. And fortunately, I got chance to work in some ISVs and in-house products in last few years, so I was able to learn Git in-house before taking it on customers project. So I would say I use Git in any new project I use. I'm trying to get more comfortable with Git now. I'm comfortable with TFVC, like I've been using it since it was released for FNO. But I would say my preference is to use Git going forward. Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Rajit. It was nice to hear so many good things about Git. And I think I feel a bit of pressure now to start using Git in my coming projects.
No, I really like this conversation, Deepak. I look forward to more similar conversations. And yes, as X++ developers, we are always on a learning journey, and Git is another thing in our kitty to get learned and get used to. So all the best. Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for hearing us out till the end. And good luck with the Git.
Yeah.
We'll back
Thanks,
soon.
guys. Thanks.
Thanks,
Do hit
everyone.
the like button and hit the subscribe button and
Yeah,
hit that
the
icon.
sequence is like, subscribe, comment. That's the sequence.
Yes, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, and leave your comments. Yeah. All right. Thanks,
Great.
everyone. Cheers. Bye, Deepak.
Bye.